is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Gif.
I still got a little bit of the crazies in there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's almost Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we just had Thanksgiving when we're recording this. How was your Thanksgiving, guys?
It was wonderful. We got together as a family. We had the turkey and cranberry sauce and the whole tradition. And we made lefse with my mother on Sunday. Lefse has been a kind of a family tradition. She's tried to make it every holiday season, but now she came over and didn't do any of the work, but kind of showed us all how to do it in order to, keep the tradition going.
Pass it on, yep.
So I don't know how many of our listeners are familiar even with what lefse is, but real quickly, it's sort of, I don't know if it's Swedish or Norwegian even. It's one of the two. Might be kind of both.
I think it might be more Norwegian.
You might be right on that, but it kind of looks like a tortilla, but it's made from potatoes and it's much softer and has a much different taste. But that's what we did. It was fun.
I had a great one too. We had all our family here and played ping pong and ate all the food, and we watched the Vikings that night, and it was just a great day.
Well, that's nice. Yeah,
and we had a ping pong tournament, and the final came down to me and my wife, so that was pretty cool.
Oh boy, did you sleep on the couch that night?
Yeah, tell the world who won.
I won.
That's right. Excellent.
Attaboy, Brad.
But she beat my nephew, and it was pretty cool how she got rid of him quickly.
She's quite a ping pong player.
She's all right.
Yeah. Did she play ping pong and ding dang one time?
I don't know what you're talking about now.
No balls of fury fans around here. Okay.
All right.
Well, I just headed over to my in-laws, so it was just my family and grandma and grandpa over there. But my mother-in-law is a magician in the kitchen. I'm all about the sides. So real mashed potatoes, stuffing was awesome. I had leftovers for a couple days after, which was cool, which is probably one of my favorite things about Thanksgiving is the awesome leftovers. And we also played a little bit of ping pong down in the basement. So not a whole tournament or anything like that, but still a lot of fun. And Sam is my older son is quite a ping pong master. So that was fun getting killed by him.
I would like to play him.
Yeah. I think it'd be a pretty good matchup, you and Sam. So that's it for me.
All right, Pete, what are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, first I just wanted
Who's the dead guy this week?
Well, we'll get to that, but first I just want to talk about some of the others considered or other people that have passed away that kind of stood out that, I remember growing up or whatever, just like you guys have done. Some you have named already. Some I don't think you have, but wanted to throw these names out there. I actually strongly considered doing a Coolio album. Because he did pass away sometime. I think it was like October, maybe September of this year. But in fact, you know what? It was while we were recording an episode of Pop Culture Yearbook. I remember the CNN thing came through, and he had passed. But I decided on the movie that we're going to get to in a moment. I'm not going to reveal it yet, even though it was very much in the description of the thing that people clicked on.
Don't say anything.
I also had written down Jerry Lee Lewis. Obviously some great music there. I had Robbie Coltrane, star of
Hagrid.
the great movie European Vacation. Oh, and also he played Hagrid. Angela Lansbury. I didn't like Angela Lansbury growing up, just with the show Murder, She Wrote, but I know that my mom watched it all the time. So just had to throw that name out there.
Well, we could have watched Beauty and the Beast too.
Oh yeah, I mean she was very talented.
That might come up later.
I mean,
tonight.
I grew to appreciate her later. But oh yeah,
kind of like Wilford Brimley. She's like the female Wilford
yes.
Brimley.
Oh yeah.
That's well put, Brad. Loretta Lynn, I remember growing up and her being one of the big name country stars with these shows that my dad used to watch, like Crook and Chase. I don't know if y'all remember that show, but that was like a country music show that he would watch on Saturday nights or something like that, a variety show. And her name always came up, and she was like known as one of the big stars. Olivia Newton-John, we mentioned in the past. Could have done Grease. I did watch that movie Grease a couple of months ago. Vin Scully, the greatest voice of baseball, in my opinion. Brad, you look concerned or something. What's going on?
Something happened to my screen. That's all, and I want to fix it without ruining the whole call here.
Without interrupting me. Okay.
Good
I don't
job.
know.
You had a really concerned look there, like I said something wrong.
Did I fix it? Keep going, Pete. Keep going.
Gilbert Gottfried was another comedian. Sometimes he was annoying, but sometimes he was really funny. Estelle Harris and what's the other one's name? The mom.
Liz Sheridan.
Liz Sheridan, both of them. And Howard Hessman was, of course, a star of WKRP in Cincinnati. I remember that being like just before our time in terms of like when we would have probably really liked it, but it was like one of my brother's favorite shows. And I go back and I see clips come across on the Twitter and the Facebook and whatever, and it was probably pretty funny. I didn't watch it enough to really get into it though. But the one that stands out, just because this guy has made a couple of movies, one that we already did
just about last year.
At this time of year, was James Caan. And the reason I picked him was because this was one of my favorite movies of all time when it came out, and that few years after it came out, just absolutely loved it. We'll talk about it, but James Caan, by the way, was 82 years old. He was born on March 26, 1940. So just about a little over a month younger than my dad. And he died July 6, 2022 for an age of 82 years old. He was born in the Bronx, New York. Other movies that I do remember him in that he was just awesome, that stands out. I'm not going to surprise anybody here, but The Godfather, of course, is where he got his big breakout. And then Honeymoon in Vegas, which is the movie we're talking about tonight, and Misery, which is one of the few movies where
I totally forgot about that one for some reason.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me about Misery is actually that's the movie where he plays the good guy. He plays such a perfect bad guy, because he just can be an intimidating, scary asshole, for lack of a better word, as he is in the movie Elf.
Not the whole time,
but all of them just great movies. I wasn't a huge Godfather guy, but I do remember watching it a couple of times, and I liked it. And James Caan was awesome in it. So
good call on Misery.
Thank you. Before we get into the movie itself, does anybody else have any additional words to say about our dearly beloved James Caan?
Well, you kind of covered the same ones, of course, because of course, Misery and Honeymoon in Vegas came out when we were starting high school, so that would be why they stood out to us over some of his other earlier work. And then, of course, Elf is its own thing. So I don't have anything to add there, but I will say that I agree with you, Pete. I loved this movie too. I'm pretty sure we saw it together. Do you remember? I think you, me, probably Haken.
I know that we
went to the theater.
We didn't see it. Maybe we went to the theater. I know that we all watched it around the same time, and we talked about it a lot.
And for some reason, this movie just really stuck with us and stood out. And we'll get into, I guess, some of the reasons probably while we talk about it. But I found it to be something that was kind of a hidden gem that we could just watch over and over again, kind of almost like LA Story for me, where it wasn't a huge hit in the mainstream, but one of my all-time favorites.
Awesome.
Gifford.
Well, I've probably seen this movie one other time, way back when, probably on the VCR tape. So
I used to have this on VHS.
Did you? Okay.
Yes.
And the one thing that I remembered as I went to watch it this time around was Sarah Jessica Parker in a black bikini. And I was not disappointed this time around either. So
man.
that was the big memory I had that burned into my brain.
Well, and see, she stood out to me because this is right after LA Story,
Exactly.
like a year later. And so she's coming hot off of that movie, which I love for every reason, but I loved her character like hugely.
Mhm.
And so she was a draw along with the other
Bigly.
people in this movie for me to go see it.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
And then did you realize, I didn't realize till we did this here that it was written and directed by Andrew Bergman, who wrote Fletch.
Oh,
And
I didn't.
He also
I didn't
wrote
look that up.
Soap Dish and Blazing Saddles and The Freshman. So
Wow.
I did not know that. But if he wrote Fletch, obviously that's something that is one of my other favorites, and that's why I probably like the script quite a bit.
And Blazing Saddles is no slouch either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think the movie it's just a fun kind of quirky movie. It's it doesn't
Exactly.
and it's Las Vegas, and I love almost all Las Vegas movies are just fun. I love going to Las Vegas, and so it has that whole theme.
Well, not only
going
that,
on.
because I agree with you on that, but it's Vegas and it's Hawaii.
And
I
it's
mean,
Hawaii,
the two
yeah.
settings combined
Vegas
are just
and Hawaii,
like you
right.
can't beat that for settings. I think that's part of the reason why I love it so much, because visually it's got all these things I love.
Well, and
And
that's
of course it's got. Oh, go ahead, Gifford.
that's also a reason why this movie came in with a $25 million budget. Was I'm assuming it's two filming locations of Vegas and Hawaii. So, yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Pete.
And of course, it has the entire overtone, the Elvis Presley overtone throughout the entire movie, with the soundtrack being a
Bring
lot
up
of
the
fun to listen
soundtrack.
to. The covers, it's all Elvis Presley covers, and it's like Amy Grant and Ricky Van Shelton,
Dwight
it's got
Yoakam,
Bono,
Bruce Springsteen.
Billy
Bono,
Joel,
Dwight
Bono.
Yoakam. Yep, Billy
It's
Joel.
so good. The Dwight Yoakam Suspicious Minds cover is one of the best covers out there. And we used to listen to this CD all the time too. So the movie and the CD made it even. Then it was even bigger with that. We loved the CD.
Well, and don't forget that that little Elvis was played by Bruno Mars in this movie as well. So he had
That's correct.
a little bit of a singing part in this.
Oh my God! I guess I didn't even. I have heard that, but I didn't even notice connect
He's the
that.
little boy that's singing the Elvis
In the blue
impersonator.
Yeah, in the blue jumpsuit.
He's got the big Elvis.
I thought you were talking
Yes.
about Rob Schneider at first and Tiny Elvis.
No.
Well, we should do a whole episode on Tiny Elvis. I want to do that. That would be fun. But let's get into the movie itself, shall we?
Well, before you do that, I did have a couple other notes.
Stat guy.
This movie did get Golden Globe nominations for Best Musical / Comedy, and
Really?
Nicolas Cage also got a nomination for Best Actor in a musical or a comedy. Yep.
Well, that's great because he's so over the top, but I mean, it's perfect in this movie. It's like the over the top Nicolas Cage was like born for this. It's not annoying. It's not stupid.
Right. Well, because the movie's over the top.
Yeah.
It's something about the way both James Caan and Nick Cage, the way they do their roles and their lines.
Well, and they're opposites.
Their lines just pop, and it makes you memorize the lines. And you can almost, as you're watching the movie,
I know that now.
You've seen it only once or twice. You can those lines are just burned in your head because of the way they say them and how they come across in the movie. We'll get into some of the ones I
got a lot of those lines ready to go here.
Well, and and like you say, Nick Cage is over the top animated, while James Caan is, there's that simmering menace underneath him, but he's very calm. Yes. Doesn't raise his voice. But that there's a sinister side there. Yeah.
Speaking of animated, that's a pretty good segue to the beginning of the movie.
Yes, it is. You like that?
Well, before the animation, though, I want to point out. I want to point out this is the second week in a row we've done an Anne Bancroft movie.
Crazy.
Which I didn't even realize that was her watching the movie until this time around. It popped up that was Anne Bancroft, and
she's going to come up again later tonight too. She's taking over this podcast.
Yes, she is.
Wow.
God rest her soul.
Yes. And so we open in the hospital, New York City, 1987. Nick Cage, who is Jack, plays. Of course, he's the main character. He is there visiting his dying mother, and they have this conversation. And she pretty much tells him that she doesn't want him to ever get married, and because nobody could ever love him as much as she does. Mm-hmm. And so he's like trying to talk her out of it and everything, because of course he wants to get married someday. He does have a girlfriend that he loves, very beautiful. Sarah Jessica Parker is his girlfriend. Well, this is actually this is before they were going out. Yes, because it said, did it say
4 years before?
Later or 4 years later? Yes. Yep. So, but anyway, she's telling him never get married, and then all of a sudden she just dies. Right. During, her last words were telling him to never get married. Yes. And so that sets up the tone for his whole like psychological thing, which that theme is kind of overdone too, because it's like, come on, you're going to get married if you find the right person. But right. But it creates this psychological thing for him where he just can't let that go and cannot commit to getting married. So and then that's what sets up the premise of the movie a little bit. And then we have the cartoon intro, which sort of reminded me of the Christmas Vacation intro. Yes. Yep. Where in this case, it was the groom at the ground level, and there's this giant wedding cake, and he's always trying to get to the top of the wedding cake, which is where the bride is. And so there's all these different little funny scenarios while they're rolling the credits. And so, it's got this gray background, so it has kind of a dark beginning to it. Mm-hmm. Because it impersonates this dark cloud that's hanging over his head, which is the pall of his mother, demanding that he never get married. So now it's 4 years later, and we see he's a private investigator, and what he does is that he spies on cheating spouses. So correct. A spouse will hire him. He'll spy on them and find out if they're cheating and provide evidence and everything. And part of the reason he's doing it is because he doesn't believe in marriage. Again, going back to this thing with his mother. And so it just sort of reinforces his belief that marriage isn't worth it, that it doesn't work. And mm-hmm. because that's all he does is he finds all these cheating spouses, and it's just no good.
Correct.
So one of his clients is this balding, heavier set guy that comes in and says that he believes his wife is having an affair with Mike Tyson.
Yes.
So he's sitting in the office, and then he shows a picture of his wife, and it's just like this trashy woman with thick glasses just sitting on a couch.
Very, very homely a woman for sure.
But later on in the movie, he's got the smoking gun.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it comes back. But that was just a really funny exchange where he's just like, you can start to see Jack's personality right off the bat, where he's just starting to get frustrated and frazzled with this guy. It's like, come on, I have to deal with this shit.
Well, and I love that he says something about how his coworkers claim that Freddie Ramirez is, spending time with his wife, but, he doesn't.
Yeah, they tell him who it is.
Yeah, that Freddie Ramirez, he's quite the ladies' man if he's able to get this wife to two-time her husband, that's for sure.
Right. So then we cut over to the playground, which that's the first that we see of Sarah Jessica Parker, and she is a school teacher. So it's sort of, it's their careers in and of themselves sort of illustrate their different personalities, where he's spying on and cheating spouses that cause him not to believe in marriage. Meanwhile, she's a school teacher, so she's watching over all these children, which is kind of an indication of like how much she wants to have kids and have a future, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of setting the table,
just how in love they are, because he talks about how great she is, and she like goes to his poker games and brings him beer, and she plays little jokes.
Fun. She jokes around.
Goes on jobs with him where like gets into the disguises and everything. So
And
They're
one of
very
those
happy.
disguises being the 8-ball jacket that Putty wore in Seinfeld. Do you notice that?
I don't think I noticed that either.
You didn't notice the 8-ball jacket?
No, I noticed the mustache.
Oh, okay.
Well, I noticed the 8-ball jacket, but for a different reason. It's because the RA on my floor freshman year had that exact same jacket too. So it must have been a big jacket in the 90s.
I just remember how much Elaine hated that jacket that Putty was wearing while they were dating.
8-ball. Tell to the 8-ball.
All right. So, Brad, you brought up that they do have a poker night, and so it just again it establishes he's a good poker player.
Poker.
And so that's obviously a very important, foreshadowing of what he enjoys doing. So he's a good poker player. He thinks he knows what he's doing because he's able to beat all his friends and everything. And it's really the first establishment of gambling, which is, it sets up the theme of the movie.
Well, and we also meet his bookie, Sally, the bookie/dentist, and he owes his bookie $50 on some game that he bet on. So we get a little indication there that he might not be a real good gambler as well, maybe on, betting sports. But anyway.
Yes. So then we go to they're on a date night.
This is another year later now, though, right?
Yes.
Jump ahead a year.
I'm sorry.
Because everything's great, but a year later, it's going to be changing at some point.
Right, because he's just dragging his feet, doesn't want to get married because he's, like Pete says, he's got, psychological baggage with his mother. So at this point, Betsy is getting very, to the point where this has got to go to the next level or she's gone.
She's all like shit or get off the pot.
Right.
That's exactly what she said.
She wants to have kids, and if it's not going to happen with Nick, then she's going to move on.
So, so it's a very depressing date night. And so they're just looking at each other, and very memorably, she says, "This isn't good, Jack." And then he's just like, order something else.
Right.
Thinking that she's talking about the food. But again, I mean, does he really not know what she's talking about, or is he just trying to change the subject and take it a different direction? Which is what he is known to do whenever the subject of relationships and marriage comes up. So, but then he's thinking about it. It's obviously a very dark and depressing date. And on the way home, it's a very rainy, stormy night. But in the car, he just says, "You know what? Let's just do it. Let's get married tomorrow. Let's go to Vegas and just get this done." Because he does really love her. He's just really, really scared of the commitment of marriage. But you can tell he feels like he's jumping off a cliff when he says it, but he's willing to do it. He's willing to take the plunge finally because he doesn't want to lose her.
In a voiceover, he also acknowledges that they didn't have to go to Vegas. They could have just gone to the Justice of the Peace, and that would have been a much better choice.
That would have been the end of the story.
In hindsight.
Yeah.
But that's not how they did it.
So then we
Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah.
Yes. Tony Shalhoub is one of the guys that works at Bally's. And we meet Tommy Corman, who is James Caan, who pretty much runs the place, or he doesn't actually run the place, but he is the highest end gambler that they have there.
He's the whale.
And he is, so anytime he goes to Bally's, he expects to get exactly what he wants, which they're willing to give him. And
he will grab your balls if he doesn't.
He will grab your balls. And he goes, but he couldn't have it because the first suite that he always has, he couldn't have it because of the president of Brazil was staying there.
Yes. Who you're going to meet here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
I was always fascinated by Tony Shalhoub in this movie because Wings was on at the time, and I was a big fan of Wings. And the character he played with the accent, and he was just kind of dim-witted and funny. And he just talked so straight and normal here. It's like, I couldn't believe it was the same guy.
Yeah.
And he went on to be this great actor and won all these, I think he won a bunch of awards for the show Monk.
Yeah.
So, Monk. Yeah.
You never realized in Wings that this guy was actually going to be some big-time actor.
Right. Yeah. Always fun to watch anytime that he is on. So there is this exchange where, again, character development. They're establishing that Tommy Corman is the boss that runs everything, and he is not going to take shit from anybody. He's going to get exactly what he wants. So then he and what's his number one hitman's name? I didn't get there. The guy
Johnny
that's always
Sandwich.
with him. Johnny Sandwich. Okay.
Yes.
He likes to eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sandwiches.
Yes. So they are in the lobby at Bally's, and they see Nick Cage and Sarah Jessica Parker walk in, or it's Jack and sorry, I should have
Betsy.
Wow, it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, yeah. They come in, and we find that she looks just exactly like his ex-wife.
We also learn he hates the sun because his wife died from skin cancer, and so living in Vegas in the sun is not his cup of tea.
It's all these little, it's all those little weird things that he's throwing in there. But of course, she looks just like him, and there's these flashbacks to when she was young. And by the way, she died. We find out that she died of cancer at age 38, and so he lost her. That was his one true love, and that's why when he's just immediately so smitten when he sees her walk in, because she looks exactly like his first wife.
And Jack is also smitten and ready to get up to their room.
Yes, he is.
You got that line down?
Yes. Yoo-hoo, can I get a room?
Yoo-hoo!
That one? That's what it was.
It's much more straight.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah, he's ready to go. Yoo-hoo!
Yes.
And then she later too, she says, "I love you so much," and he just goes, "I'm glad."
But so they do get, and by the way, Donna is the name of the first wife. Jesse looks just like Donna. So they do get a room for, they get this big, beautiful suite with mirrored ceilings and everything for $120 a night for selling molars.
Right. From his bookie slash dentist.
Yes.
Yeah, Sally. What was the name of the suite again?
I didn't have that written down.
I don't know.
It was some theme suite. God, I wish I would have written it down. All right, anyway.
But of course, there is the scene where they're in bed together.
It's the Alibaba
having
suite.
Sex.
Alibaba.
Yes.
Alibaba suite. There it is.
So they just gotten done having sex, and they're like, "I like the mirrored ceilings." And then Nick Cage goes, "I didn't realize I had such a beautiful round behind."
Or that might have been yours.
That might have
She
been
said
yours.
that might have been me.
Oh,
yeah, that might have been me.
Oh, I thought he said.
I thought he did say.
Yeah.
Or was that yours? And then she goes, "That might have been me."
Yeah.
That's how I thought it went. But that was just kind of a funny little line.
Mm-hmm.
When he gets up, he finds a mysterious envelope that's on the floor that had been slid under the door. Which, by the way, did you notice that he calls down to the front desk to say, "Yeah, you can take the do not disturb sign off my door now."
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Well, you can't do that yourself, but
right. Yeah.
Well, I think it was on his phone. Like you could reach them on their phone in the room.
Oh, I took it as
they had a do not
the
disturb
door.
on there. But again, who does that? And why would you even?
Exactly.
Yeah. But
yes,
anyway,
he could go out the door and take a sign off.
Well, it could be notified because maybe a suite that fancy, you have to call so that the maids and the service aren't all coming all the way up there.
I think he.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. What's in the envelope?
So the envelope is an invitation to a poker night. And the way that it's worded and everything, he thinks it's just like a welcome deal, which casinos do this type of thing all the time. They have these little poker tournaments and everything, always to try and get guests interested and get them hooked and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks that's what it is. He thinks it sounds kind of fun. And then they go down to the pool.
Meanwhile, she had already asked, so she said, "Let's go get married now."
Right.
Yes,
and,
she is
and
demanding.
He turned her down, and now he's going to use this to. But she really did want to go get married right away, which he could have done.
Yeah,
She
and
wants to
again,
get it done so that it's over with, and then let's go have fun.
Right. And again, if she's wearing that bikini, I am not leaving her side. There is
Right.
no way I'm going anywhere. And I love playing cards. I love playing poker. But yeah, you're not dragging me away from that pool with her there. No way.
Exactly. But he is a poker player. He thinks he's good because he does well against his friends.
I'm in a regular game back in the city.
Oh, like you had to tell me that.
Like you had to tell me that. That's a great one.
But you're right. She's very suspicious. You talk about foreshadowing. She's like, just doesn't want him to go because she has this sense that something bad is going to happen. And of course she's right. Which is
well, and she probably, because he's drug his feet so long, she's worried that anything gets in the way. It's just going to, she doesn't trust him, and they need to get this done to make sure it's done.
And this is all. Go ahead, Pete.
I like how she suggests let's go immediately and then he responds right away with, in this heat?
Oh yeah,
108 degrees out. Just to show how he's always coming up with something.
Right. So he goes up to this poker game, which is all a clever ruse set up by Tommy.
And Jerry Tarkanian is there.
We have Jerry Tarkanian, and we also have actor Seymour Castle there, who you guys might know from Rushmore. I loved him in Stuck on You as the old booking agent or manager, but he's in a ton of stuff. He's absolutely great.
Is that the guy that had the 2 pairs of glasses on?
Yes.
Yeah, and the big white hair and
kind of like the
big
old
cigar.
Vegas. Yeah, the old Vegas gambler type. We had Asian Elvis who spoke constantly like Elvis at the table, which towards the end kind of gets on.
Tarkanian is always eating a sandwich, but then he also chews on a towel too, just like he did back in the day for people that remember him.
Correct. Yep.
I love the point where he's singing "Viva Las Vegas." He's like, "Bright light city, gonna set my soul." He goes, "Would you shut the fuck up?"
or if there's like a big bet on the table, he's like, something like "Fools Rush In." He's singing, and it's just like, good lord. Yeah. Or if he's out of a hand, the king has left the building. Like constant stuff.
The king.
I love this scene because I think. He's going to fail. That, you know the whole time what's going to happen, but it's so intense and well done. Like you're involved in it. Like in your rooting for him.
My palms get sweaty watching it.
Yeah, but it's another scene that's really well done and makes you like get involved, even though you know exactly what's going to happen in the end. And it's he keeps putting more money out there and he keeps borrowing money and you're like, oh my God, it's just like watching a train wreck.
I, on the other hand, was sitting there enraged because 99.9% of poker games are table stakes. And this was way outside the norm for any poker hand. So what that means is at the beginning of a hand, the most you can bet is what you have in front of you. You can't in the middle of a hand go, I'll take another 20 grand and you get another 20 grand.
But that was part of the ruse, though.
Do we really need to talk about this?
Part of the ruse, but I'm saying in actuality, that is not how you play poker.
Because Caan was willing to do it, though, and it's his table, so he's going to allow whatever.
And this wasn't even a real game.
No, exactly.
Right.
It was all set up for him to fail. He was dealt Jack high, straight flush, so he knows he's going to win. So Jack just keeps throwing money at it, and of course he loses.
And again, James Caan, we're talking about. He's so good at just like buying it, like you said. You had to tell me that. Just the way he kind of pushes him and kind of almost cheers him on, but you can just see underneath, what he's up to. He's perfect in this.
So
go ahead. I was just going to say the thing that stood out to me in this scene is that it's a little one of those foreshadowing things as well. Is that the last hand, the big hand that he wins, is aces over eights. And which historians may know that's known as the dead man's hand.
That's a good detail.
Hickok, actually, the dead man's hand
before he was shot and killed. That was the dead man's hand, and so that's why he laid it out and said aces over eights, and he took it. And then on the next hand was the big one.
Again, as the poker historian, the dead man's hand is 2 pair aces and eights.
I thought it was aces over. Oh, I thought he just said aces over eights.
Yeah. Well, he did in the movie, but the dead man's hand is 2 pair, aces and eights.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. Sorry.
Close
Well,
enough.
then forget my whole thing. Forget that.
So he loses $65,000, and a person comes up and says, "Would you like a fruit plate?"
Right.
Yeah. So, well, you skipped over the most important thing, though. He gets the straight flush.
Yes.
And it's a straight to the straight flush. Yeah. Is it clubs to the jack?
Yep.
It's like unbeatable.
Yep. And of course,
and
Tommy's holding the straight flush to the queen.
Right.
And that is just the dagger to the heart.
That's one
there.
for the books, huh?
And that's how he loses it. He's so confident, and that's why he puts the 65 grand on the table, borrowing all this money, which of course worked out perfectly for Tommy's character, or for Tommy. And so that's when, just the way his reaction, where they zoom in on his face and he's just sweating, the little gag that he gives is perfect.
Yes.
So then he's having to sit down with him, and it's like, how are we going to work this out? And he knows, well, Tommy knows exactly where this is going the whole time,
right?
But lets him like throw out all these options. It's like, maybe we can work out some sort of payment system, or whatever. It's like, you think you find a goddamn washer and dryer? Yeah.
And this is where we see Tommy now, the mob type guy coming out. Like, he ain't messing around, and he's intimidating him, and so
intimidating him for the reason of what his real goal was of this whole setup.
An indecent proposal, perhaps.
Correct.
Yes. So he just throws out there, out of nowhere, and he says, "I have a solution." He goes, "You do?" "I do. I'm going to spend one weekend with your girlfriend."
Yep.
And so then he's like just puzzled. Just like, how do you even know who that is, and everything like that. But then it comes out, of course, he's seen her down by the pool, or down at the lobby and everything like that. So then that's the deal. If she's willing to do it,
he'll wipe the slate
clean. Then
he doesn't agree to it. I mean, he's still like, what the hell?
Right. And he has to talk.
No choice.
Yeah, he has to talk to Betsy about it. So of course he heads back down to the pool with just this broken look on his
shame.
Face. Yes.
He's walking around the pool to go find her.
And of course she comes out, and he has to tell her the situation as to what happened, 65 grand, and he'll, let him off the hook. And of course, I love her line here where she said, "I'm a whore, Jack. You made me into a whore.
You brought me to Las Vegas, and you made me into a whore."
Right in front of like the arcade full of kids, and everybody's like looking at her as she's, rightfully so, losing her mind here.
I just checked. I brought up Indecent Proposal because, of course, these two movies came out around the same time. This actually did come out first. I was checking on that. Oh, this came out August 28th of 92, and Indecent Proposal was April 7th. Oh, interesting. My anniversary. That was 1993.
Oh, that's the way that's what I thought, because I remember seeing the preview for. No, I remember seeing the preview for Indecent Proposal and thinking, my God, they stole the plot.
Yeah, so this one was the more original movie.
Yeah,
it was,
and more fun too.
Yes, definitely.
But this too, where he's trying to explain poker to her and explain, the hand, it's like unbeatable, and she says, "Well, unbeatable is not unbeatable," and that's where he goes, "I know that now."
Okay.
Hey, well, and later when he's up in his room and he's got the TV on, and how they explain different games of chance, and the guy on the TV's like, or the unbeatable straight flush, and he just sits there,
unbeatable straight flush. So, during this argument with, they're having this argument down by, they walk around this boxing ring for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then he decides he's going to call his dentist bookie friend.
Yes.
And say, "Hey, I owe Tommy Corman $65,000." And they're both like, "Holy shit!" The people on the other end. Oh, he knows who he is. Oh, good. I would hate to be shacking up with a small timer.
Right.
But he says, if there's an
alternative, you are not shacking
you
up.
Take the alternative.
Right.
And he hangs
Yes.
up right away. So that's all he gets out
And
of
that's it. So it's like there's no help beyond what they already have.
But see,
So,
you talked about the video and everything. She's fun too, or she's so supportive because she looked up the odds of Jack losing and saw that it was 3 billion to 1.
Yep.
And she actually says to Jimmy Caan that she thinks it was fixed, which never even seemed to cross Jack's mind.
Right.
But she doesn't push very hard after that. I think that's funny that she brought that up and then she kind of just lets it go, which
I think because
it does
she's
come
at
back
the
up
point,
later.
later, yeah, but like at that moment it's like
Yeah.
it seemed like there was more to go there.
But I think she's also obviously pissed off at Jack for putting her in this position. So she's like, well, screw it. Here's a guy we're, hanging out, having a nice time. And obviously he's, got a lot of money and let's see where it goes. And she's going to, punish her fiance for a little bit, not expecting it to go as far as it does. The one thing that I wrote down during this while they're at this Elvis show is that he takes off to go back to the casino. Why is he still gambling? He's just digging.
He's trying to win his money back.
He's
desperate and hopeless, and that's what it's showing. It's pretty obvious.
Well, right, but obviously
you do it, Gif.
I wouldn't do it. I would get the hell out of there. You're already down $65,000 for crying out loud. Good Lord, he's not going to win it back.
You put the coin into the and you hope. But what's funny is he goes to the roulette table and he puts it on 20. He says, "No, I'm not feeling 20. I'm change it to 19." And of course, it hits 20.
Hits. Right.
Poor guy.
Well, this is when they're having while this is going on. This is while they're having the get acquainted meeting. This is where Brad you brought up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said that's where she said this to him. I kind of skipped that.
Yes, but
is this also where Bruno Mars is playing then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's a number of different random Elvis characters.
Yep.
Like there's an Asian one, there's the black one, and there's the child, and there's all these different ones.
Each one comes out, sings a different Elvis song, kind of like an Elvis review. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, yeah, they're having this conversation, and he's just dejected this whole time. And then during this quote unquote get acquainted meeting, he reveals that he's going to take her to Hawaii.
Right.
And so then that's something that wasn't agreed to as a part of this whole deal. But what are they going to do? Because they're still out to $65,000.
The deal was the weekend, not where they go.
That's correct. And if you're her, why not take a free trip to Hawaii, for crying out loud?
Sure, at this point.
Yeah.
So then there's a whole exchange where, of course, Jack is not happy about it when he finds out that they're going to Hawaii. They get into a big fight back up in the hotel room because she's got to go pack. But again, there's just nothing that can be done, and she's angry at him for obvious reasons, and so he or she storms out, and then she's gone. And she goes to Hawaii with him, like she has to do. And then they find out during this whole thing. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a great line here too, because like she's kind of acting like it's not that big of a deal, and he uses the word blithe, and you're like so blithe all of a sudden. And it was just so out of nowhere, and it's a great word, and it's another great delivery. Because he's freaking out, and she's packing like, oh, this is no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But of course he's freaking out.
Just do it and get it out of the way and be done with it. But then they find out that he's going to keep her until Tuesday or Wednesday.
Correct.
And then he has another little freak out where he's like, Tuesday or Wednesday? That's like a week. So
but what's he going to do?
All these different things. All right. Yeah. Exactly. So,
and then they're about to leave, and I love it, just the whole scene of him frantically sprinting through the casino to try to stop them, and of course he gets there just too late, and now he's stuck.
Yep. So he heads back to New York.
Well, he goes to Fremont Street first. We see Glitter Gulch.
Loses a little bit more. Yes.
Right.
But yeah, he goes back to New York while they go to Kauai.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, they're in Kauai, and so this is where it gets to be a little concerning because she does seem to be warming up to him, and
she's not hating this.
No.
Right. She's kind of accepted it, or she's just enjoying that she's in Hawaii, and it looks like that she might end up with him.
And she's not staying at the Motel 6 in Hawaii. I mean, this place that Tommy owns is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's
a mansion that's on the ocean.
Yeah.
And
when they meet his son and his wife, and they're just the nicest people, and they're so welcoming. So, I mean, she's got this, everybody just loves her, of course. And
we meet Nico for the first time, kind of his butler servant, and that was the main bad guy from Karate Kid 2. And we'll meet one of his co-stars in a little bit here as well in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
Chosen from Cobra Kai?
No. Karate Kid 2.
Isn't that when he goes to...
When he goes... Yeah, he goes to
Okinawa. But it's the Japanese guy.
Yeah,
isn't that the one where Chosen is in it? Isn't the guy from Cobra Kai?
I don't
know. He was in Cobra Kai, I think, and
this is the old guy that was Mr. Miyagi's buddy.
Okay. Mr. Miyagi saves his life at the end by stopping the big tree that...
Yes.
I only care about the original Karate Kids, so I don't know my history as well as... I only know it through Cobra Kai, and that's it.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've got two alums of Karate Kid 2 in this movie as well
that's
while we're
great.
in Hawaii. Yeah.
Well, the main one from Karate Kid, of course, is Pat Morita, which we'll get to.
Oh, that's so good.
Meanwhile, Jack goes back home. He goes back to New York City, and he goes back to his job. And the guy comes back that was accusing his wife of having an affair with Mike Tyson, and he still can't let it go. And he brings in a picture that was clearly a picture of Mike Tyson with a supermodel. With a picture of her head cut out and glued on there. And he's like, see, this is
irrefutable evidence. Yeah. My God.
But while he's explaining, he's already, panic stricken and everything because of what he's going through. And the guy is explaining his situation and how he keeps envisioning, and they zoom in on his face, like how he's envisioning Tyson grabbing her, groping her, fondling her.
Yes.
Are you trying to give me a heart attack?
Yep.
Yes. That's when he just loses it and gets him out of there.
Well, and then isn't he at home when
he sees them on TV at a volcano because it's the big eruption, and so it's a big deal. They're recording it on TV, and they happen to see Tommy Caan, and so then he just gets on a plane and says he's got to go to Hawaii. He can't hold off anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then we get another great cameo at the airport.
Well, and before this though, isn't this Johnny Sandwich? Is it Johnny Sandwiches? He's kind of tracking Jack's movements, and he tells him, "Hey,"
he tells him when he's on the way to Hawaii
that he's on the way to Hawaii, and of course Tommy tells me you gotta delay him, and I think this is where Johnny Sandwich suggests, "How about a nice hit and run?" And of course, James, and for whatever reason, Tommy's like, no violence or whatever, just keep him,
unless it's necessary.
Keep him out of here. He just needs, a couple of days to close the deal with Betsy, and because things are kind of coming along. Like Pete said, she's starting to warm up to him. Yeah.
Well, and they have this whole montage right around this point in the movie. It's like this: they're horseback riding, they're mountain climbing, and then that's when they go see the volcano that he eventually sees on TV. That this is what's going on.
Well, I love the montage with the horseback riding and the mountain climbing, because Betsy, young woman, she's like energetic and she's able to do all this stuff, but you can really tell, like in the hiking scene, like Tommy's having a hard time keeping up with her. Like he's winded as they come to the top of this hill and like falls down a hole, and like he's having a tough go trying to keep up with this younger woman.
Right. So all this time that they are together in Hawaii, Tommy continues to invoke doubt about Jack into her. So he's basically saying, "I would have never done this to you," and he keeps like throwing in these little seeds to and she gets really dumb, by the way. She continues to believe him, and she gets dumber and dumber as this whole thing goes on, which we're going to kind of get to the apex.
Yeah, her character is not it's not a great character.
Right.
But Ben Stein is.
Yes. So we get to the airport. Now Jack is trying to get to Hawaii, and he wants to get there now. And so he gets to the airport, and there's a line at the ticketing agent. And Ben Stein, typical Ben Stein, is at the front of the line, and he's like asking about all these discounts and these perks, and he keeps going back and forth, and he just
trying to book a flight for 2 weeks from now.
Well, that's what
everybody else here.
Yeah.
Well, and then everybody and then he goes nuts on him, and everybody's very happy and on Nicolas Cage's side because he's holding up all these people for no reason.
Right. Before that, though, when he is starting to panic, one woman goes, "Lighten up," and he goes, "You lighten up."
and they tell him to calm down. He says, "Or what? I'll be thrown in airport jail."
Mm-hmm. He finally.
So we're going kind of back and forth, but yeah.
Okay, Pete, you brought up part of this whole thing where she gets dumber. They're on this boat, and he basically admits that the whole thing was a setup. And like she accused him of earlier. Doesn't necessarily say the game was rigged, but the whole thing was set up to get her. And she doesn't even seem to care. And in fact, she lets him kiss her at this time, which is really gross. So that's the point where it's like, okay, she's not smart, and she should be smarter.
Well, there's a line coming up here from Pat Morita that kind of explains this, though.
Nobody would fall for that.
So
you mean mahi mahi?
Yes. So anyway, Jack, he makes it to Hawaii finally, but we have Tommy gets a driver to basically stall him and take him around the island, and that driver is Mahi Mahi, played by Pat Morita.
Nothing like the Mr. Miyagi character.
Nothing like the Mr. Miyagi
this is
character.
Well after the Karate Kid movies have come out.
Yep.
And so it's not.
But it's more of a return.
Role. This is more like what he was before.
Yeah, it's more of a return to his comedic roots, and I love the part where he's finally in the cab with him, and Mahi Mahi tells him that on the island, girls get crazy. They like freaky all night long. Which is not helping Jack's state of mind at all, because that's exactly what he's imagining Betsy doing.
But he's okay riding because he says he knows Tommy Corman. He's going to take him there, and they get to this rundown place, and this weird guy comes out. And this is another cameo, Peter Boyle from Young Frankenstein, amongst others.
As Chief Orman.
Chief Orman, not Tommy Corman.
Yes. Yes.
And he asks Jack, "Have you seen the musical Grand Hotel? Do you know if it'll come to Kauai?" And he goes, "I don't really, but I'll ask around when I get back."
Right. Yes.
He just wants to get out of there again. And then he gets stuck watching him do this whole musical, because that's what you have.
And you gotta stay there and entertain him for 10 minutes, because otherwise what was going to happen? Like, so
it gets around the island that if you don't hang out with Chief Orman, that you're a bad guy and nobody's going to help you or want to be around.
Yes. But when he's done performing, he does steal the taxi on his own to get himself out of there.
Yes. It's like, wait, we got to go see the 5 pools of whatever.
Yes.
What? The 5 pools are here?
So what he steals the Mahi Mahi's taxi,
finds Tommy's house, and actually meets the kids, but they don't know who he is, and so they tell him where they are and everything, because it's not a big deal. Yep. So he's gonna go catch them.
Yeah, he goes to the country club or wherever they're at, and of course this is where Tommy catches up with him. And
and Tommy's putting on the full court press to get married right away now to what's her name?
There's
Betsy.
Betsy,
I meant. Yeah.
And he also tells her that it was only $3,000, and that's the big tipping point now.
Yep.
Because she had mentioned the $65,000, and then he's like, "What? There's no $65,000.
$65,000." And again, it's his delivery, the James Caan delivery. $65,000.
Yes.
With
Yes.
65,000.
And it's like a little bit over the top, but and you can tell he's an evil character in the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
But it's like this is where this is what I was talking about, the apex of her dumbness.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
She wouldn't pick up that because he's willing to bring him into this poker game so that he can he's already said he's willing to do anything he needed to get her for the weekend. And then she totally believes it that he changed it.
Right.
That was $3,000.
Well, but she does say she needs some time to think, and she walks away.
Mhm.
And Jack actually gets to the point where he can see her and is yelling at her, but it's too far away, and he gets tackled by Tommy, and they start to fight.
Right.
And
And
she's
Tommy
near the
makes it
ocean,
look.
so it's kind of the waves are kind of drowning.
Yeah,
him
she actually
out a
thought
little
she
bit.
hurt him, but of course she didn't. And I mean,
Right.
so.
And Tommy and Jack get into a fight, and Tommy makes it look like Jack's actually on top of him, beating him up. So the security shows up, takes him away, and of course by that point the cops have shown up because he's stolen a cab, for crying out loud. So he ends up in the Huskow.
With a
in
native
after
guy that's on
thinking-
the
Betsy comes
cot.
back and agrees to marry him, and I just wrote, really?
right.
Because this is, I mean,
that's how desperate she is to get married. That's all. That's all that matters.
But I don't
She
think
knows
it's been
he's a
developed that
slimy
way.
guy.
Right. And he's willing to have kids right away. Like he has no problem, because he's doing whatever he can, saying whatever he can to get her to agree to marry him.
So he's in the jail, like you said, and Mahi shows up to pick him up and kind of bails him out because he actually feels bad. He's not even working for Tommy. He offers to help him, and I love this line too. He says something to him in Hawaiian, like some words of advice, and Jack goes, "That just doesn't help me at all, but thanks for your help."
So he gets Jack back to the airport in Hawaii, and of course Jack is trying to find any flight that he can and out of there as soon as possible because of course Tommy and Betsy have headed back to Vegas at this point. And so there's nothing that will get him back to the mainland within a day. So he basically just takes a piece of cardboard and writes on it and walks across.
Oh, he gets a flight to San Jose first.
That's right.
Okay. And yeah, that was a little confusing.
And he actually hitchhikes on the runway, which of course that's not going to happen. But it's really funny. And there happens to be a plane full of flying Elvises that are headed to Vegas, and they say he can hitch a ride in their plane with them.
Right.
He's not knowing what good he's getting himself into at all.
Well, yeah, he doesn't know they're flying Elvises. They're just dressed as Elvis, and they're going to Vegas. So it seems like, you know, that makes sense.
Right. And we come to find out that after he gets on the plane, the rest of the Elvis impersonators get on, and we see on the side of the plane that it's the Flying Elvis's skydiving team. And they are planning on, of course, skydiving into Vegas because this whole time in Vegas is a huge Elvis impersonator convention that's been going on the whole time in Vegas. So, yeah.
So Betsy does have second thoughts finally. She finally comes to her senses. And she says, not that she won't marry him, but she wants to wait. And then the true Tommy comes out, and he offers her $500,000. Then he offers her $1 million.
We're back at Bally's now, by the way.
Yeah, they're in Bally's. And she just can't believe that. And it's that's also, you know, that's another part of the movie that's kind of like, would he really just go to that so quickly after he put all this work into it?
Right.
But I guess he thinks money will get her no matter what if he offers enough. So,
well, money works for him in the past.
That's true.
Yeah. He sees that he's one of these people that believes that just money is absolutely everything. And he shows that when he says it would be very irresponsible of you to turn this down.
That's true. He said that's another good line he delivers.
That was kind of a telling line there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, she runs off to the bathroom because she has to think, but then she's able to escape and dress up as one of the showgirls.
Where does this showgirl outfit come from?
It doesn't matter.
This whole thing, because she says she's going to go to the bathroom, and like you'd think she's going to the bathroom over in the corner,
in the lobby,
but she's actually headed up to the room, and they're not really following her that closely. But that's how it had to go. But you can actually see that Tommy, as cruel as he comes across, he isn't totally committed to forcing this, and he almost half-heartedly like is trying to get her back, and just almost tells the sandwich guy, just let her go. And
he resigns himself.
I mean, he wants to get her back, but he's not trying that hard. And you can see he does have a little bit of a heart.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And some of that may
Or
be
he just knows he lost and he's not like, maybe that's it. Not a heart, but
I thought some of it might be that because she reminds him of his ex-wife, his dead ex-wife, that's what got him into this in the first place. And maybe a little bit of the reverence he has for his wife. Maybe he took it a little easier on her at the end here. And
maybe.
But he's still chasing her as
he is. No, he didn't give up yet. It's just it's not as committed, and they didn't follow her to the bathroom. I mean, they could have easily kept her around.
Correct. So at this point, we have the Flying Elvises coming in from San Jose. They are over their drop point.
Yellow than red, yellow than red, yellow than red.
That's correct. Yep. So he's never jumped out of an airplane parachuting before, so he's kind of getting a literal crash course here.
And they're making him. He doesn't have the choice to fly. He's jumping.
Right.
And also, that's a good about her thing. Where did that come from? Where did his suit come from? Was there just a guy called in sick that day, or
they had an extra suit, and it was his size and everything?
Well, and not only that, but as he's coming in, like there's an announcer. What is it? Pardo. Don Pardo's doing the announcing. So they radioed ahead and let you know who is coming in. Yep. So we have a first-time jumper.
That's part of the charm of this, though, is how it all comes together, and it's so ridiculous, but it just works.
Well, so the Elvises, they get ready for their drop, and of course they got light up jumpsuits, matching jumpsuits that kind of outline their body, and so as they're coming in, you can see them coming in at night over the Vegas Strip, and they've got a big target set up for them to land on. And
I want to back up though, because when he's freaking out and he's on the plane and he's really nervous and he asks the question, is this foolproof? The guy goes, buddy, there ain't nothing in this world that's foolproof except for coops of bills and hookers.
Right. Well, and he credits that to Elvis, doesn't he? Doesn't he credit that saying to Elvis?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because everything these guys do is from Elvis.
Right. Well, and the main guy that he was that was kind of helping him out on the plane, we brought up Blazing Saddles earlier, and that guy was also in Blazing Saddles. Yeah.
Yes. So now we're getting ready to jump because he had been told yellow then red, yellow then red, yellow then red, yellow then red.
It's the two different shoots. You pull the yellow one first. If it doesn't work, you pull the red one.
But he pulled them both.
I know, that's another thing. It's like
no, he did though. He did them in sequence. He goes
yellow.
red.
The guy told him you pull the yellow one, and if it doesn't work, you pull the red one.
Yes.
Or what'll happen?
Yeah, he'll end up.
They're going to be scraping you up off the pavement with a spatula or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But when he actually does it, he goes yellow, red, pulls them both, and so that doesn't even match up to what he was told. But
no, I always thought it was that you had to do them both. I didn't catch that it was one, and if it didn't work, then the other one. But
Pete, you need to go back to skydiving school.
Okay, I'll remember that. But don't forget, though, right as he is about to jump off the plane, the other guy tells him, the other guy was just messing with you. It's actually red then yellow.
Right. And then right before he jumps out, he goes, I was just kidding.
So now he's got no idea what's right.
So he's
of course, and all these things we're picking apart. The biggest one, it's pretty amazing that on his first ever skydiving, he could just land himself right on that target.
Oh yeah, he had it down. Like he had the cables, and he knew exactly how to steer himself.
Watching everybody else, maybe it's not that hard.
He's like, don't fall on anything sharp. Don't fall on anything sharp.
Oh, yeah, that's all he was hoping for. But
the whole point with them getting into their new clothes is just perfect because that makes the end so much better. So they reunite. She hears the voice, of course, because you said Don Pardo's calling the name. Mm-hmm. So she happens to be out there. Hears his name. He finds her. They embrace. The Elvis song "Can't Help Falling in Love" comes on. It's just perfect. And he looks at her and he goes, "Did you get a job here?"
Right. She's still dressed as a showgirl, and he's dressed as Elvis, and that's what makes for the perfect final shot. Well, by the way, before we get to that final shot, though, we do get another shot of James Caan, Tommy, and this is where he has truly given up, and he's like,
he says,
out of a
freaking guy jumped
out of a freaking airplane. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
all the Elvises are their wedding party now too, which is fun.
At one of the little wedding chapels in Vegas. So he's in his Flying Elvis jumpsuit, and she's in
a
her
showgirl
outfit, and they're getting married. And I mean, there's really nothing better than, getting married in Vegas. One is as a showgirl and one is Elvis. I did find it funny that the movie is called Honeymoon in Vegas, and it ends with the wedding and not an actual
You're right.
honeymoon. Yeah. So
boy, another plot hole.
You just ruined the entire movie now.
I'm just imagining her in that black bikini while she's on her honeymoon in Vegas.
Okay.
I mentioned last week how the Heartbreakers I was excited to watch, and it just didn't quite hold up, and I was excited for this one too and hoping, and you know what, Pete? It did. I just said this movie is so fun. I love this movie. I could watch it again.
Yep.
It's just a fun movie, and that's all there is to it. It doesn't need to be believable. It doesn't need all that stuff.
You got to resign yourself to the fun, the craziness of it, and the ending is just—it's so great. It's wonderful. Yeah.
So I loved it.
Done.
All right,
and James Caan was great.
Yes, he was.
So I needed to pick out an idea for what are we going to do for our top 5 for this, and so one that we haven't done before, the type of movie, and there's plenty of these movies out there, but I said, why don't we pick out our top 5 love triangle movies where a love triangle is somehow a main theme of the movie. So did anybody have any trouble finding a list?
Good Lord, no.
No, because you can look up anything and find it on the internet.
That's right. That's what I did too. So
I didn't really even go to the internet. I was just going off of
well, actually, I have my own little list of like 100 favorite movies that I made a few years ago. Okay. So I start with that and I look and see, okay, what's a love triangle on here? Mm-hmm. And then I look up others too.
Awesome.
All right. So, Gifford, do you want to go first?
Sure, I will. I've got a couple of honorable mentions. We got Reality Bites, Titanic, Sweet Home Alabama. I also threw The Karate Kid in there with Johnny and Allie.
Oh,
and Daniel. My top 5. The first one might be a little bit of unrequited love, but definitely more than a love triangle as well. And that's Something About Mary, where everybody was chasing Mary, but you did have kind of in the beginning.
That's more than a triangle.
Well, and even in the beginning, it was Dom, who we didn't know until the end, and Mary and Ted.
I got that on my list. I'm with you.
Thank you. I'm going to go with my number 4 is Wild Things. And it wasn't necessarily a love triangle, but there was a threesome. And where I come from, you don't have sex with anybody you don't love. So I am throwing that one in there. I'm going to put in Crazy Stupid Love. There was quite a love triangle with Cal and Emily. And what was his name again?
There's just so many things.
Oh, there. David Lindhagen. That's
David
correct.
Lindhagen.
Yes, couldn't quite remember that name after watching that movie. My number 2 is Love Actually. Again, unrequited love with the newlyweds and the best friend, but you also had the secretary with the boss and his wife. So I like that one as well. And my last one is my number 1 is Dumb and Dumber, and Freda Felcher.
Yeah,
and Mr. French Tickler. So I'm going with Freda and
oh my God.
and Harry and oh my God, what's Jim Carrey?
Oh my God, Lloyd Christmas.
So I'm going with Harry, Lloyd, and Freda Felcher for my number 1.
All right,
Brad.
All right, so I one honorable mention I have to include, not for me but for my wife, Twilight.
Oh,
gotta say that one.
Yeah, you gotta put that one in there.
One of her favorites of all time, and it is a big love triangle.
What team is she on?
Edward.
Edward. Okay.
Yeah.
Courtney's
Edward
on
Jacob.
Courtney's on Jacob's team.
A few other honorable mentions. So I have Honeymoon in Vegas on here. Mm-hmm. I have Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Some of these I didn't include because it's like there's other things going on, and my top 5, I tried to pick the ones that really kind of stuck to the love story the most.
Mm-hmm.
I do have Love Actually as well listed because there's so many different kind of things in there.
Yep.
And then one I hadn't thought of, but really is a good one, is The Princess Bride. But again, I include that under so many things that I didn't want to hold it.
You've said it many times, that movie is.
But Humperdinck and Wesley and Buttercup, I mean, that's definitely a love triangle.
Yep.
All right, the 5 I did pick. Number 8, or no, sorry.
Whoa!
I have them out of order.
The 5 here are the top 5 at number 8.
He's an English teacher, folks, not a math teacher.
Number 5, I mentioned Anne Bancroft earlier, and I've got The Graduate.
Yep.
So one of the original or old classics.
Yep.
I got Bull Durham in my top 5 with Nuke.
I should have had that.
And all of that. That's a great movie.
That's such a great movie.
I do have Something About Mary. And then you didn't mention my top 2. At number 2, I have Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. Gaston and the Beast fighting over Belle, and she really isn't interested in either of them till the end, but still, it's a 3-way thing. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot this on my rom-coms. You brought it up, Giff, but I remembered it tonight. One of my favorite movies of all time is L.A. Story, and it's almost like 4.
Yep.
But it's definitely a love triangle because the person that he truly loves is also the person that what's his face, Richard E. Grant loves. I can't think of the characters' names, but
right. But you could also go with Sarah Jessica Parker and Steve Martin, and for sure.
But so that's my number 1.
Yep.
Pete.
There's one really, really big one, Brad, that you left off that you're going to be kicking yourself, I'm sure. That I'll have in my top 5. Yes, absolutely. One I did write down was a movie I remembered from college. The reason I wrote it down is because it's a unique love triangle story where I would describe it as a complete triangle. Do you remember the movie Threesome?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where that was the first one that came to my mind.
Yep.
It's a complete love triangle because the straight guy has a crush on the girl has a crush on the gay guy, and the gay guy has a crush on the straight guy, which is the premise of the movie. And so that makes it an actual complete triangle when you think about it that way. Sure.
Circle.
Whatever. But
I love those two.
That's why I did want to bring that. I don't remember how great the movie actually was, but it's one that came to my mind and I wanted to write it down.
Yeah, it was okay, I remember, but I've only probably seen it once, so it wasn't going to make my list.
Same here.
But I thought of it one right away.
Was watched like freshman year, and like a lot of people always had it on, and everything. So, Brad, my number 5 is the ultimate love triangle movie that you really should have had on yours. I know that if Dave were here, he would have it on his, probably at number 1 with a bullet. That is the love triangle between Johnny, Lisa, and Mark.
The Room.
Okay.
I haven't seen that movie, and I knew what it was just from the character name.
So,
that's a good one.
Which takes the love triangle to the extreme. Of course, they're best friends.
Johnny's my best friend
with his future wife, and it's his best friend and his future wife.
Mm-hmm.
So
good call.
Anyway, then I think everything else I had has been mentioned and or discussed already. With Love Actually, Honeymoon in Vegas. I had The Graduate, and Bull Durham was my number 1 as well.
Oh, really?
Bull Durham's a big miss on my part. I love that movie.
Yes.
Yep.
Because it intertwines everything. It's a great movie all around. It's got the baseball theme. It's got the love story.
But that is really
it's a romantic movie at the same time. Yeah,
it sticks to the love part throughout. It's not like a side thing.
Correct.
Right, exactly. So that's all I got. Hey, you know what? Is that we are for the last time in this season. So we're closing out season.
So we're not
closing out the season yet.
We're not including the next one as a insert or anything.
The next one is the final. It's the season finale. This is the last time we are closing the yearbook
on the in memoriam.
Closing the in memoriam page.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
It's not the season finale. It's a Christmas special. We'll have a season finale in January.
Yes.
Right.
Because our season starts in February.
It's the year-end spectacular.
Yes, it's going to be amazing.
And it's about Christmas, so we didn't forget Christmas, and we will have one ready for you.
That's correct.
That's right. What do you think, guys? How should we wrap up the show?
With a threesome?
I think we should go. Jesus. Easy.
That's our next video that we're going to be posting.
No, it will not be.
All right, let's go.
Feature row would be a good way to wrap this one up.
That's a real good idea. All right, here we go. I don't have any funny lines to close it with, so let's just play Feature row.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hello, Ben Red.
No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your song is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start to me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared but there's nothing I